But I said we were going to bring in NHL Network insider Elliotte Friedman. We bring him in now. I'll start with the Canadiens, Elliotte. Do they have more moves to make?
First of all, Jackie, I think there needs to be an NHL Network poll on who is living in the nicer broom closet, me or Billy. I'm looking at this setup, and you guys have the nice studio.
Hey, Elliotte, I can see the room that you're in. I know that well. I want you to get one of those suits I left there a few years ago. Please pick one up for me if you don't mind.
No worries. Hey, Billy, I know you. You left with a giant garment bag. There was nothing left on your rack when you were done here.
Two.
Yeah, okay. I do think that Mark Bergevin, he keeps saying, "Yeah, I'm not doing anything else. I'm not doing anything else," and he goes and he does something else. I think he just enjoys like setting us off on wild goose chases. And, I think that I do think he's considering some other stuff. I think he's a guy who likes to keep his options open. They're right up against the cap. I've heard at times he's tried to open up some cap room. And, they're now officially, I believe, as we talk right now, out of their COVID shutdown. I think it was just officially announced. So I'm curious to see if they're going to open up something. I wonder about a guy like Arturi Lehkonen, who's having trouble getting into the lineup. There were some rumblings that they were looking at a cap-freeing move last week. Let's see what happens now that they're officially back to business.
All right, Elliotte, we talked about it earlier in the show. Aaron Ekblad suffering that just a nasty injury against the Dallas Stars. He's going to be out, as they say, for significant time. How does his injury influence Bill Zito and the Florida Panthers as to what they may or may have to do now at the deadline?
Well, EJ, let me just say up front, I haven't bothered the Panthers today. I think they got enough going on that I just figured I'd give them a day until they were annoyed by certain reporters. That's brutal. You guys talked about it. It really sucks that happened. I do think Florida was looking at adding to their blue line even before Ekblad was injured. I don't think you can replace him. I think it's an impossible ask the way he's played this year. But I do think they'll look around and see what their options are. I just don't know how you replace him in the way he was playing this year. He was having an absolutely fantastic season. I think all of those names that you have up there are potentially interesting. I am not convinced that Nashville is going to deal Ekholm right now. Number one, they've just tied Chicago for the final playoff spot in their division. And number two, I think there's a chance some teams are looking at Ekholm and saying they don't want to pay the price and then have to worry about an expansion issue. I think this maybe gets punted to the summer if it happens at all. But I don't get the sense Nashville's as eager to do that right now, although, as we all understand, everybody's playing poker right now.
Speaking of playing poker, Elliotte, is there a guy who makes his hands closer or tougher for you to read than anybody, closer to the vest than Lou Lamoriello with what he may do? With all the time you spent texting and calling people, can you get any insight as to what they might do on the island right now, considering Anders Lee out, long-term injury? And also, we know when Lou feels his team is legit, he doesn't quit on them. He keeps working to find something.
There's only two people who kind of put the fear of God into others, right, Billy, that they don't like talking about, and one is Lamoriello and the other is Steve Yzerman. Like, those two guys are the guys that people really don't like leaking on. It's not as fun for me. The interesting thing for me is I think you're right. I think, he's come out and said he's going to do it. We're all trying to figure out the name. I mean, you've heard all the names: Hall, Palmieri. From what I can tell, there hasn't been a ton of progress between the Devils and Palmieri on a new contract. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just means that I don't get any sense that that's close right now. I've wondered about a guy like Dustin Brown. One of the things that's really challenging here, Billy, is that there's a bunch of teams like Columbus, like Nashville, like Arizona. All of a sudden, they're right there. The one guy who kind of jumped into my mind a little bit last night was Mike Hoffman. And that's because St. Louis scratched him. I could see that being the kind of guy the Islanders might be interested in. That's purely my own guesstimate. But I wonder if St. Louis tries to move him to try to create some cap room. And, I wonder if the Islanders would have any interest in that.
Elliotte, we know that the Sabres are going to be cleaning house or trying to move guys out. We saw Eric Stahl move the other day. I want to ask you about Jack Eichel. Do you think there's any scenario in which he gets moved before the deadline, or is this something that if they decide to do it, they're going to wait until the summer?
Well, I don't like ever saying no to anything because it's a crazy world out there, EJ.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that happened in the last year we never would have predicted.
Yep.
I would say it's unlikely. Like I heard Don Granato say today that they think there's a chance that Eichel could play before the end of this year. I still don't think that that's a likely scenario in terms of a trade. Like if you're dealing for him, you're going to have to give up a ton, and you're not going to know if you're going to have him play this year. I think it's much more likely if it happens, it happens in the offseason.
All right, we are out of time with our favorite NHL Network insider, Elliotte Friedman. We'll have to get your thoughts on Taylor Hall next time you're on the show, but I know you're a busy guy. You probably have another interview to do, so we won't take any more of your time, but we appreciate it.
Thanks very much, guys. Great to see you, Billy. Good to see you, Jackie. EJ, speak to you guys soon.
All right, talk to you later.